This week on Dear Rabbi, we continue our discussion on counting people. Why don't we count people? So the answer to this goes back to biblical times. Throughout the time in the desert, there were several censuses that were taken of the Jewish people. And instead of counting the people directly, instead each person contributed something and then those coins were counted. It was a roundabout way of counting the people without actually counting the people. That is probably the precedent for not counting people. We see this in the second book of Samuel, chapter 24, where King David has the Jewish people counted, and a big calamity happens to the Jewish people, and he learns from there that that was a mistake, and he actually expresses regret for having counted the people. This is based on earlier commentaries, such as the Rambam, Maimonides, who brings this down on his commentary on the Mishnah in Tractate Tamid, chapter 4, Mishnah 4. Rashi, our classic commentator, explains that when we count people, we are making them susceptible to the evil eye. Now's not the time to get into what that means. The most simple understanding, I think, is that when we count people and we give them a number, we are diminishing their value and diminishing their worth. We recognize that each person has infinite value, and when we ascribe a number to a person, it's a very demeaning activity, which is why the Nazis, one of the first things they did is they stripped people of their names and their identities, and instead they tattooed a number on their arm. By giving them a number, they were saying, you are not a person anymore, you're just a number. Whereas the census was not about counting the people, it was about allowing the people to know that each one of them counted. So when we count people, we don't use the numbers. Rather, we have other creative ways of counting. We're counting their shoes, we're counting the words in the verse like we talked about last week. We have all different ways to find out how many people are here without having to actually label each person with a specific number. If you too are a wandering Jew and you have questions that you'd like us to tackle, send them to dearrabbi@joidenver.com. If you're listening on podcast, you can see that link in the show notes. We hope to hear from you soon. And don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend so others can find this podcast as well.